So I am really, really looking forward to sharing this with you because so many people were blown away by learning this in a recent event that I hosted, Power Aging, and what really builds muscle, because there's so much confusion out there. There are so many conflicting opinions that people just get dizzy. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to follow. They don't know who's right, who's wrong. So I'm really hoping that I'm going to present some facts to you in this video that will help you with that confusion, that will help you to understand some facts that matter, that is important to know, so that you're not misled and you're not making choices that are based on inaccurate or actual misinformation. So let's get started. What really builds muscle? We're going to talk about muscle nutrition and hydration. And the most important thing here to know is, oh, it went fast too far. What foods really build muscle? It's important that you are an informed healthcare consumer, because that means you're going to make better choices and have improved outcomes. So, do we consume lots of eggs? Do we have to have, steak every day, chicken every day, turkey every day? Do we have to really load up on that protein? We're talking animal protein because there's protein in every food we consume, including bananas. But whenever people use the word protein, they always mean animal. They just don't put that word in front of it. Do we need carbs? Should we be eating breads? Should we be eating fruits and vegetables? There's a lot of conflicting information out there. So when it comes to really building muscle, let's see what the facts determine. I thought I would start off with a little bit of history here. And obviously, optimal nutrition is needed for optimal physical performance, no matter what your reason is for wanting muscle mass, whether it's to perform a particular sport or a task, or you just don't want to decline as you age. You want to be able to throw those big bags of mulch around in your garden. You want to be able to lift up your grandchildren even as they get bigger and heavier, which they do. So what provides this? Now, when you look at history, back at the time of ancient Olympics, back in 776 BC until today, and you'll agree with me on this, scientists and athletes have debated about the perfect diet for athletes. Nobody's agreeing. Everybody's disagreeing. Everybody has a different opinion. So even looking back then, doctors in ancient Greece and Rome wrote about nutritional plans that athletes used to prepare a competition, and they were different. Animal meats. They, of course, at that time were eating oxen and goat and bull and deer. Moist cheeses. They were also consuming wheat, dried figs, liquor, and special potions. But there was a difference of opinion even back then, because let's move forward, fast forward quite a bit, up to the 1938 Berlin Olympics. And the Olympic athletes that were competing at Berlin frequently focused on meat, animal protein. Athletes regularly dined on 2 steaks per meal, sometimes poultry, chicken or turkey, and averaged nearly half a kilogram of meat daily. Now, I know if you're in America, you go by pounds, so you'll have to figure that out. But they were consuming a lot. Pre-event meals regularly consisted of 1 to 3 steaks, and eggs, and they supplemented with meat juice extract. Now, I can't even imagine drinking that, but that's another story. Other athletes stressed the importance of carbohydrate. So, okay, what do you mean? Not everybody was eating all this meat? Well, some were eating a lot of carbohydrate. You had Olympic athletes from England, Finland, and Holland that regularly consumed porridge, which is a plant meal. The Americans ate shredded wheat or cornflakes in milk. Of course, we've got the animal protein in the milk, but they were still focusing on those grains. And then the Chileans and the Italians were feasting on pasta, lots of carb loading. And members of the Japanese team were consuming 1 pound of rice every single day. So you had a big difference in what was being consumed among these athletes at the Olympics. It depended on their country. So why is that? And did some countries do better than other countries because of their diet? Not really. So now let's look at current. Athletes have been experimenting with nutritional protocols. I mean, athletes always want better performance. They always want to do better, no matter what is going on in their world. They want to eat as perfect as they can that's going to optimize their performance. So they're going to do nutritional protocols. They're going to do supplements. They're going to do other substances, some legal, some not legal, trying to find the holy grail for enhanced physical performance. Now, the interesting thing about the substances, the ban list for certain sport events or the Olympics, that ban list has to be updated regularly because people are constantly coming out with new things that there is then determined, well, that's really a chemical enhancement. And that is unfair because you're not training like everybody else. You're using a chemical enhancement. So then that gets on the ban list. But there's new stuff that comes out all the time. Now, it's really important, and this, I want you to look at this here, to use high standards in evaluating whether a dietary plan is useful and safe, supplements and other substances useful and safe for athletic performance. This is key. Is it useful and is it safe? And a lot of the times, unfortunately, it may not meet both those criteria. And a lot of the evidence for diet and supplements is testimonials, advertising, industry-sponsored research. If a company is wanting to sell and promote their product, they're going to sponsor the research. Now, that doesn't mean that the research is not valid all the time. Some companies are very high integrity. They're on the up and up, and they are, somebody has to pay for the research. And if you don't have major organizations wanting to support research for a particular product or a substance or a supplement, somebody has to pay for it. So sometimes a company will pay for it, but they have no input or influence over the results. However, if you look and see if the authors all work at that company, that's a little kind of a red flag that there might be a bias in the reporting. So there are ways to look into things to see, is there a bias? Is there not a bias? But a lot of the times these studies do not represent a real life experience. For instance, they may choose a particular cohort, which is a certain population. They may choose, okay, we're only going to look at people in this age group, and they have to be completely healthy and never have experienced this, that, or the other thing. And so now you can't say that the whole public population will experience the same results because the whole public population is not in that age group and can't say that they've never experienced this, that, and the other thing. So we really need to look at these studies, look at the evidence, and sort of weigh it with logic and reason and understanding. And not everybody's trained in looking at studies. Not everybody has taken graduate level biostatistics. So they'll read headlines, they'll read magazine articles, they'll listen to their neighbor, they'll listen to the guy at the gym. Oh yeah, you want to be doing this, that, and the other thing. And this person happens to be very muscular and looks good and works out well, so you're going to trust what they say. But how do you know what they're saying is accurate? Just because they perceived a benefit from something, and they may be wrong in what they perceive. There's a reason that we look at placebo effects and nocebo effects and those kind of things. So, and then again, if you don't have the same chemical makeup they have, you don't have the same lifestyle, the same diet, the same history, the same whatever, you may not get the same results they got. So these are things to consider. Now, when we're looking at sports nutrition, it needs to include a discussion of exercise nutrition in order to address specific needs of people who are serious about sports or exercise, but not professional athletes. So you may be watching this and you have no desire to be in the Olympics. You have no desire to compete on a state or a national level, but you're very serious about your particular sport. You might love pickleball, and you might play pickleball 3 times a week, and you're really into it and you're very serious about it. And you want to make sure that you are intaking the proper nutrition to improve your performance in pickleball or to maintain your ability and your endurance and all of that to play pickleball well. So it's important that we understand what exercise nutrition is, not just sports nutrition. And people exercising for health and fitness benefit from an optimal diet. That's a given. There is better results from exercise. So when we're looking at macronutrients, that's carbohydrates and proteins and fats, not the micronutrients, the vitamins and the minerals. We're looking at macro. There's an assumption that athletes need more protein, significantly more than they really need. This is the problem. This is the big red herring. This is the elephant in the room. Although everybody's talking about it, nobody's ignoring the elephant. Everybody thinks they're right. Yes, protein is important for everyone. It is important. We have to have it. Doesn't have to be animal protein. So just because I'm saying the word protein, don't think of a steak, a piece of chicken, a piece of fish, an egg. Protein is pretty much anything with a face or a mother, even if it swims. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be plant protein. But I want you to see this part. Excess protein intake is dangerous for everyone, including athletes. And what do I mean by dangerous? Well, we'll get into some of the negatives of this. So looking at carbohydrates and muscle and exercise. Carbohydrate is used for energy, particularly during intense exercise. And there are a lot of people out there who they cross their arms. Oh, carbs are bad. Carbs are evil. Carbs are from the devil. Carbs are just from the pit of hell. We can't consume carbs because it's going to make us fat. It's going to do all these things to us. It's not true. Your body needs carbohydrates for energy, particularly during intense exercise. You have to have carbohydrates. Your brain screams for carbohydrates. Now, we're not talking about a sugar cookie. We're talking about a potato. We're talking about complex, whole food, plant-based carbohydrates. Now, energy comes from plasma glucose. That's a product of the carbohydrate being metabolized in your body, and a breakdown of liver and muscle glycogen. If you haven't consumed enough carbs, your body will take that because it's stored in your liver and your muscles. Now, there is this availability of adequate dietary carbohydrate preserves, and that preserves your tissue protein. So if you're consuming enough carbs, it will literally keep you or help you to maintain lean muscle mass and not lose lean muscle mass. If you're not taking in enough carbohydrate, it requires the body to make compensatory adjustments, and oftentimes that means breaking down muscle mass. The higher the level of exercise intensity, the greater reliance on carbs as the source of fuel. And in spite of this fact, many athletes continue to insist that protein intake is most important because that's what they've been told. That's what they've been taught. And that myth is perpetuated over and over in most gyms, in most athlete environments. It's very sad, but it's very true. The bottom line is a high intake of protein does not improve athletic performance when it displaces dietary carbohydrates. So when you're not getting enough carbs, that will impact athletic performance. The goals of carb intake are pretty simple. They provide energy to meet most calorie needs of the body. They optimize those glycogen stores that you store in your liver and your muscles. They promote muscle recovery after exercise. This is key. That delayed onset muscle soreness is improved, is reduced after exercise when you're consuming enough carbs. They also provide energy during practice and competition. especially if you're doing an endurance event. They help to maintain those glucose levels, and they sustain glucose levels during physical activity. So very, very important goals. Now, protein basics, I'm going to get into in part 2 on what really grows muscle, what really feeds muscle, I should say. What are the nutrition needs of muscle? What are they really? So stay tuned for part 2.